Hi, everyone. This is Patty Post, your host of the You Persevere podcast. Today, I have a very special guest with me, Mr. Andrew Post. Say hello to the audience.
Hello, everyone.
We are doing a marriage episode that will turn into a marriage series. And the goal of this is just to share the foundation, some funniness, some reality of marriage, as we've been married now 20 years and we have 3 kids, 19, 17, and 12, and 2 dogs. And we're just going to talk about marriage. So to begin, I think we should talk about what is your favorite thing of marriage.
We're just going to get right after this. All right. What is my favorite thing about marriage? My favorite thing about marriage is I love having a confidant. I love just having a friend, a buddy. I think that's my favorite part, just not being alone and being with somebody that I love. Am I lucked out?
I think that's true. My favorite thing is to have your person. Like, you're my person.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
And it's that person that knows the good, the bad, the ugly of you, and they still choose to love you.
All your warts, yeah.
Yep.
So that's good. And for all of you that don't know, as we get ready to do this, I'm like, I didn't plan anything. She asked me if we do this, and we've been talking about it. I could talk. What did I say? I could talk the wood off a wood barn. I could literally go for hours. I'll be a talk show host sometime because I love to talk. So I'm thinking to myself, okay, I need to be respectful, not talk all the time, ask my wife questions as we're driving here, and I'm thinking about what I'm going to say. And I'm just kind of a freelance guy. I don't have any notes. I'm not prepared, I guess, for this conversation, but we're just going to go with it, and that's what we're doing.
Well, so being married to an entrepreneur is not easy. But as we're sitting in this room right now, there are so many things that Andrew has done, that he's built me sound pads in the room so we can have a nice studio and the audio is good. I see this like rickety old thing in the corner that has been moved from our office in Eden Prairie to, I think we've moved here in Fargo, how many, 5 different offices, I think.
It's actually amazing that it's standing, because I think it's in like 4 pieces right now.
But he does all of that. Like he is our field ops at Checkable. So anything that we need done in the office operations, and then as well as the warehouse with shipping, he takes care of. And that, for me, to like have that trust in someone company wise, is incredible.
Well, let's be honest. Sometimes my kids look at me and they're like, "How did you marry mom? Like, she's such an overachiever. She's so, don't wait for tomorrow. What you can do today. Let's wake up at 4:30 in the morning and work out 7 times. Like, it's just not really my style. But we're very good yin and yang. But I look at them and I say, it's because I know how to fix everything.
That's true. My
How
dad
does a guy
does
like
too.
me get a girl like this? It's because I can fix almost anything. I'm just the way I was raised. My dad would always say, "We're never paying anyone to do something we can do ourselves," and so I just kind of learned how to do most anything, and that's how a guy like me keeps a girl like her. I can fix almost anything.
So a topic that I thought that we could talk about today is parenting. And even the struggles of parenting from a mother's perspective and a father's perspective. The father-son relationship, I don't really get that. So that's something that has been like, why are you so hard on him? Why do you say things that really you don't mean? And just, I don't know, it's just different. A mother's love is like unconditional. You keep coming back. You think that those nice words are really going to motivate and they won't do it again. Dads are more real.
I just want to clarify, my love is unconditional as well.
Well, yeah, right.
I just, you know, it's funny. I'm 44 years old, and all of this just kind of happened. We just kept having kids, and here we are. And I still often say, I'm not ready to be a parent. I'm not ready for all this. And it went from coloring on the walls to girlfriends, sleep, like all this crazy stuff, and I'm not ready for all this. And when it all comes down to it, I kind of tell my kids, like, my job is to make you better than me. So I try to do a better job than my dad did with me. My dad was great, but you learn from your childhood. It's kind of like we're running away from our childhood, and how do we fix it? How do we make things better? And sometimes I was a little bit of a wayward kid, and sometimes I wish my parents had been harder on me. I was, and so when I raised my kids, especially my boys, Lily too, she's not exempt. I you have expectations, and I'm trying to raise my boys to be men, and it's hard for Patty, who's just like, oh my gosh, there's noise, and the tone's so loud, and
the tone
the tone has gotten me in so much trouble. I can be so right on whatever. It doesn't matter if my tone's off. So marriage advice, men, your tone, it's so important.
Well, I think women too, because my mom's tone, I think that's what gets me. It's because my mom's tone can always.
So like, tone's the thing with Patty. So if you're dealing with Patty,
I think a lot of people are like that though. Tone,
I suppose you're
right? Like you can just be give a snappy response, and then that just like makes what is that effect? Like a snowball effect, right? Because then it can really trip something, and then it's like, ooh, why are you in a pissy mood? It's like, I'm not in a pissy mood. I'm just.
So going back to this parenting, I think it's funny. Patty was talking about moms and dads, and me growing up, for me, I would ask my dad for everything because my dad was always busy. He was an entrepreneur as well. I'm surrounded by entrepreneurs, so apparently I'm good at dealing with them. And I would always ask my dad because he'd be doing 4 things, and I'd be like, I'm gonna go to the cabin with so and so. Okay. I'd ask my mom, and she didn't always give me the answer I wanted. So you that's how you divide and conquer, and that's what I did. So who do you think the kids ask for? Do you think they ask for things for me, or do you think they ask for Patty, who's doing 40 things? And so
Always.
Yeah.
And I thank you because you recognize that and you tell the kids, don't ask your mom. Like you ask her at the hardest time. And they still do ask me. It's cut down. I feel like sometimes they don't ask you because it's hard. It's hard to ask you.
Right. What time?
Why? Or you're just like, no, before hearing.
Yeah. Hey, Dad, no. Yeah. No. And most of the time I'm cool, but and I think when it all comes and done, see, I get terrified of like my kids doing a podcast on us. You know what I mean? Like we have this, so I'm gonna be careful. My kids are pretty sharp, and.
But do you remember last year at this time? Like last year at this time, it was staying out late. It was having like not coming home at all. It was we have this little Furbo thing that watches the dogs. And last year we were coming home and I looked at the Furbo to see if anyone.
It gives you a notification.
Yeah, for the dogs, like when they're barking. And I looked and there was a bunch of kids at our house. And we had gone like an hour drive to go to a soccer game and then we'll be back. And we saw these kids walking around with beers. They're like, we know they had stuff in their Yetis too, because then when I said
they had the nerve to ask for the Yeti back, and I'm like, get out of here. Like, what is this?
And then, don't you remember last year?
What I remember is I tore my ACL last year. I thought I was a professional volleyball player, and I went up to spike this ball, and I landed in beach volleyball in Fargo, of all places. You know what I mean? Or an oxymoron. And I exploded my knee, and luckily I was playing with all these doctors, and I don't know if it was luckily, it didn't feel luckily. And they're sitting there, and they're testing my knee. They're like, oh, I think you're great. I think you're all right. And I'm like, I am not all right.
How did you get to this story?
Because I go home. She's in New York, and she's always like, don't get hurt. And I'm like, oh, no. no way.
Right.
So
because you had in pickleball like
I do in
a
everything.
month
I know.
before.
I play too hard. As my kids say, I'm a try hard. Like, who doesn't try hard? I
You're
don't get
like
that.
Rick chasing
Hold
after
on.
the ball.
So I get home and I'm like, I'm just gonna ice it. I knew that I was in trouble, but I'm like, oh, maybe if I just ice it all night and elevate it, I'll be fine. So I do that, and I'm waking up at like 2, 3 in the morning, just in terrible pain. And my son, who knows that this has happened to me, he had to pull me into the house. I couldn't get into my house, so he knows that I'm injured.
And then his girlfriend pulled the race off of you.
Yes, they took advantage of me because I couldn't get off the couch, so I couldn't go check on anybody. I couldn't go. They knew that I was stuck, so yeah, that's what kids do. Great kids,
and then his girlfriend slept over.
Yes, that's what I was going to say. So,
right. And that was, so he had already graduated from high school, and he had gone to the Army once for 10 weeks, and then he was leaving in like a few weeks to go again for another month, longer than that. And this was a new girlfriend. So yeah, last summer was crazy.
Yeah, who takes advantage of their dad?
And then what about? And then one of them got arrested. Got arrested in the summer.
Yeah. So we're getting real on this. Is what's happening here.
Yeah, but we have come now full circle. So now we're moving into the summer, and I feel like they're better.
I don't know what that means. We've come full circle. You think so?
Yeah, it's been a year. I feel like they're more mature. I feel like Topher is more mature. Will is too. Will's responsible. He finished his first year of college. Like, we did that. That's great.
You know, that's funny. She's right. Like, my instinct is to be like
negative.
No, is to be hard. Is to critique, right? So she's right. The kids are great.
Yeah.
We're blessed. They've been good kids. They've made mistakes, right? We all have. But my instinct is to, have you done your homework? Oh wait, kids don't do homework anymore. So I haven't had to ask for that for like 5 years. What a weird thing.
I know, they really don't. Kids, what is up with that? But what about Melanie today? She said she had 5 hours of homework a night.
Because she went to a private
online. No, that was thing. Before she was doing like pre-AP stuff in like freshman year. I don't know if our kids just are taking like weak classes. They don't get any homework. And then the late starts. And then like, did you know they have school off, I think, on Monday?
We live in North Dakota. We moved to North Dakota, which is different.
Awesome.
Well, it is awesome, but we're kind of city people, and all of a sudden we're in North Dakota where there's literally, I just heard the other day, there's 1.3 million heads of cattle, and there's not even that many human beings.
There's like 800
so more cattle than people. I mean, it's interesting. And I heard today, listen to this fun fact. I heard today, North Dakota is the least populated state with tree coverage. Only 3% of our state has tree. 3%. It's the lowest in the whole state. You think about that.
In the whole country?
Yes. Probably the whole world. This place is wild. There's no. We've moved into our house. I've planted like 75 trees. How many trees have I planted?
Was it because it was a lake over the whole state? Like, why
we're
is
in a
it?
Valley.
Yeah, but we're in the Red River Valley now, but not all of North Dakota. Like, why is it like it's so flat?
I think it has something to do with the glacier.
It is. It is. You can look as far as the eye can see, and it's flat. It's like looking over the ocean.
It is like the sunsets are beautiful, but it's just what an interesting fact, right? 3% covered with trees. I thought that was.
Yeah, that is crazy.
That's my inner Cliff Clavin for you 40-year-olds. I know what I'm talking about.
So,
or older.
I would say that has been a struggle in our marriage because not a struggle.
What are we talking about?
Parenting when you have one,
for sure.
When you have the yin and the yang. And Andy's a lot of times like, would you just back me on this? Like, you don't have to argue with me in front of the kids. Because sometimes he gets too harsh. And then I'm like, get mad at him because I see my kids.
Most of the time.
And it gets, because he just is.
The kids are like, watch, we'll just get dad so riled up that mom gets mad at him. That's kind of the gig, I swear. I don't know.
I don't think they do that on purpose.
I can't wait till they see this. Even if this just goes away and no one ever sees it, we'll have this saved. And we'll have them watch it, and we'll see if I'm right. They know exactly what they're doing, divide and conquer. It's the way of the deal.
But, so here's my thing, is that if we know that, then you need to just reel it in a little bit.
Yeah.
So then you don't have to get.
Yeah.
Yeah, they can, but you are the adult.
I know,
You're
but
the
I
one
did
in
say to her the
control.
other day, I'm kind of a thinker. I'll sit and I'm on no social media. So everybody, I was telling her, I'm like the Wizard of Oz kind of, like no one really knows about this guy. Like, does she really have a husband? Is this true? Like, what is going on? And then you pull away the sheet and it's just this very average guy wearing a t-shirt. Like, that's who I am. But, what's the point of what I was trying to say? I'm sorry.
No, I'm not saying it. I do really, you are. I just posted the quote. This is funny because from a business side of things, so on Instagram, you're supposed to, or any social media platform, you're supposed to comment on other people's things. And there is a video of a man calling out his wife saying that behind every good man is a better woman. And he was talking about this in business, like when he has deals, when he has work that to be done, like anything, he always knows that his wife is there to take care of things, like the kids and the house and like family, just in general, and how important that is for him. And he's like, she has her own stuff too, like her own career, but he was the ultra successful person talking about this. And I commented and I said, we have role reversal in our family, and Andy is our rock. He is our protector. He does all of the masculine things that you should have in a marriage. And that's not just because that helps in role reversal too. It helped me too at like building this business. And it doesn't necessarily have to be the husband, like being the entrepreneur. Women can do it too. And men can do it too. And you have been there for us. And that's, I would say, my favorite thing about you, because you can fix things. But more importantly than that, you have like the heart of a lion, and you will protect your family and you keep everyone in line. So even though I'm saying, like, when we get in a fight that way, I know deep down. I love that about you.
Well, thank you.
Because otherwise the responsibility would fall on me. I would have to be the one that was like towing the line.
Yeah, no,
I take the easy route.
you know, it's funny, as I'm sitting here thinking about this, I preparing for this for the last like half an hour before we started, I also was thinking we could make a podcast on every part of our life, like how we met. It's a hilarious story how we met, right? I showed up at a party with a girl, and Patty.
No. The first time that we met, we
No,
were
not
at.
the first time. I'm just saying, she invited me to a party. I show up at the party with another girl because I was not that smart. And so long story short, she ends up pulling out the yellow pages, which we used to have back in the late 90s, early 2000s. Pulls out the yellow pages and the girl says, Andy, we should go. And Patty said, well, why don't you go? And I was like, oh, yes. And I'm sitting there like, I can't believe this. And she pulled out the yellow pages, turned and called the girl a cab, and the girl left. And I stayed, and that was we've kind of been together ever since. And I mean, there's a gazillion stories.
Did you call me after that, or did I have to call you again?
There's a million different things we could
I
talk
don't
about,
remember
and
that.
we do have, a fun, cool story. We were the first one married. No, I bet you if they polled people at our wedding, 95%, everyone but like her dad, right, would have been like, they're not gonna make it.
Right.
And
that is true. Everyone but my dad.
yeah, like people are just like, who's this crazy guy?
Yeah,
Like,
my dad loves you. My mom loves you too. Everyone loves you.
We could talk about so many different things and parenting, all of these different aspects of everything. And when it comes down to it, I'm a simple guy. Like, I was a fireman. I've worked overnights at warehouses when we first got married. Like
painting.
Like I've had painting companies. I've
done yard mowing or yard like landscaping.
I've never been too proud to take any job when we've had to. Like we didn't. No one gave us anything. We lived in a 900 square. Did I turn it off?
No, you just turned Siri on.
We lived in a 900 square foot townhouse that my dad had to co-sign, and he didn't want to because he didn't trust me, and he shouldn't have. But we did it. Yeah, we got trustworthy Patty, but we fixed it up, and that's just kind of like we've worked hard, and I've never been too proud to do anything, and I married somebody smarter than me. Like, essentially, that's what happened is that people are like, who is this guy? Like, I just, like, she's so pretty and put together, and I'm not that
I don't
shabby.
think anyone says that,
It's
though.
fine. I
I
get it.
think you're being funny. No one does that at all.
And,
Because he's awesome.
and,
We're a fun couple.
we're perfect yin and yang. Like she wants me to wake up and go working out at 5 in the morning. And I'm like,
Yes.
I am sleeping, and I'm gonna hit the snooze button. She thinks it's like Satan, the snooze button. Like anyone that presses Satan, something or the snooze button, something's wrong with them. Like they don't really have it all together. You're supposed to enjoy the day and get after it. I'm on like number 4, like 8 minutes.
I just did a podcast about this.
But we're just very different that way. She goes to bed, you know, religiously at a certain time, and everything's so regimented, and I'm so just like, you know, kind of like all over the place. She goes out of town, and it's just, the kids are just like, oh crap, like it's
I've been traveling
even
so
though I
much
raised
lately
these, you
too.
know, I was home with the kids most of the time, but they know it just means, you know, we're gonna scavenge, we're not going out to eat, look in the freezer, like figure it out. And that's just how I am, you know. When she's home, we try to get things together and make it nice. When she's gone, it's just like, oh crap.
Don't you
Mom's
feel
gone.
like it's relaxed? It's just more relaxed.
I hate it when she's gone. I like her for the first day. I'm like, oh yes, I can breathe. And then I'm like, where is she? I need her. So it's an interesting thing, and I'm sure you're the same. You know, the first couple, you're like, oh, this pool's all right. All right, now then.
Oh my
so
gosh,
by the end of it,
I
she's
don't
like,
even.
I want to come home.
No, I don't even want to leave anymore. I've been traveling so much.
Yeah.
And it is if I'm not working, like when I'm working and I'm in meetings or like a conference, but then as soon as I'm done, all I want to do is go to my reprieve of my family. And that's like last night. I don't know if I've ever felt so grateful because remember we couldn't go out to dinner, and then I just came home, and then you had marinating steaks and we had rice and green beans. And it was just Andy and Topher. Lily came in afterwards, but it felt so good to be with you guys and be home and like having our food that we like to have at home and the routine, and it just felt so good.
It did feel good. And even so, like I said, for those of you that know nothing about me, which is probably anyone watching this, if you like I said, I'm a simple guy. I've had these jobs. The one day, the day we brought Lily home, I just gotten a job as a fireman, and that was a super
that
big.
was like your coronation day, wasn't it?
No, it was the day that he called me, and we were literally driving home from the hospital with her, and I was kind of like, man, is this my life? I'm just going to be working these, you know, crappy jobs and just like
You worked really hard for that.
just everything like and it was from building relationships. One thing that I love people. I love talking. I'm working on the listening thing, but we all have our warts, you know what I mean? But she's always like, you don't know their name. It's because they're not important to you. I'm like, I don't think that's it. I think that I just have something to say, and I'm thinking about what I'm going to say.
Though. I think like when I had all those buyer meetings, and when you meet someone, you know their name. Like they tell you their name, and then you're like, okay, that's Kim. Kim is talking to me right now, and then it gives more identity when you have a name associated.
Well, congratulations to you for being that is a great skill.
But
for me, it's like, oh, you're Kirsten. Oh, I had a girlfriend named Kirsten back in the day. I can remember that. I'm just being honest. A better example. Your name's Kathy. My mom's name's Kathy. I got this, right? Well,
oh, gosh.
You know what I mean? Association, right? If you can associate somebody with a name.
Yeah.
For instance, okay, the girlfriend that was a bad example. My neighbor, though, I just met we got these new neighbors, and I hadn't met them because it snows here. People don't go outside for like 8 months. You don't see one. But I just went out and introduced myself.
Which one?
Her name is Kirsten. And the reason I know that is because I thought she said Kirsten, and I may have known a Kirsten at some point in my life. And I said, Kirsten? And she said, no, I wish it was Kirsten, but it's Kirsten. So now I'll never forget. And her husband name is Oak. What a great name.
Yeah, that is a good name.
She said Oak, like a tree. And I'm like, I wish my name was Oak.
So you can remember that.
Yeah. So association, when you're in conferences and you're meeting 30 people, if you can remember that's like borderline savant. Like, who can do that?
That's what I do. And then I go to the after party, and you go and talk to people, and I know people's names.
It's impressive.
I just work on it. It's a skill. Like you do anything that you practice, right? That's when I said Lily should be touching the soccer ball 5, 10 minutes a day. And if she does that for 45 days, it ended up being like 8 extra hours of practice.
It's simple.
It's like
So
reading.
when my middle boy, when Topher was younger, we put him in this hockey. There was an old NHL player, Pitlick,
Lance Pitlick.
and he would do little like sessions at his house. So I brought Topher there, and he had just this amazing basement, like a shooting room. It was really, really cool. He had this picture of him guarding Ovechkin. It was cool, right? We love hockey, and so Topher was there, and he sits me and Topher down, and he said, "It's simple. If you all you have to do is put in 10,000 hours. If you put in 10,000 hours, you can be a D1 player. That's all you have to do, borderline NHL player." Now, it seems overwhelming, right? A number like that, but
10,000.
yep. But when you lay it out, since you're a little kid,
You do 10 minutes a day for 1,000 days.
So Lance
So that's
Pitlick's
2.7
son
years.
is a hockey player for the Minnesota Gophers. He's amazing. And every time I watch him, I'm a Gopher guy. Every time I watch him, I think of his dad saying, "All you have to do is put in 10,000 hours." And I sit there and I look at that kid and I say, "He put in 10,000 hours," and his dad was right.
Yeah, that's right.
So I know what to do, right? Many parents out there, we know what to tell our kids. It's more than having good advice. I figured try talking to a 20-year-old because I've got all the answers.
I think it's leading by example. That's why I try to be in my
I'm
schedule.
more of a do as I say, not as I do kind of. But
do it.
Just if I can just give them a look like this, just like, "Are you serious?"
Yeah, but the best thing to do is to show them that it's achievable by doing. Talk is cheap. You're the first one to say talk is cheap.
No, I'm agreeing. That was halfway funny,
Well,
we're different. We do things differently. But like she's always like, "Oh, the sunrise was so beautiful," and I'm like, "You should have seen the stars last night." Well, she's out cold, and I'm up at the fire by myself, just like, "Oh, that's amazing." But it works for us. I like that she lets me be myself, and I'm a different kind of guy. And like she said, the whole role reversal, that was tough for me. It still is tough for me. I had a wife that worked in a pretty wife that worked in a male dominated industry. She would travel. Like these were things. I wouldn't say that I'm an overly jealous person, but I mean, yeah, it's my wife, like so trying to have that balance where I'm not like some freak like, "Oh, I need to know everything about you." So I've always been pretty cool about that. And that's been hard for me. But
I was so irresponsible. Like I just didn't realize. I was oblivious to like how you can be worried about a person. And especially I don't know, maybe I'm more self-aware as I'm older now and I don't drink. I feel like you have one glass of wine and you're not aware of your surroundings. You know what I mean?
Well, it was nerve-wracking. I can just say it for any husbands out there that have a similar situation where you just kind of outkick your coverage. You've married this woman that's probably way too good for you, and she travels, and you're just like, oh my gosh, what do I do? It all really comes down to if she wanted to leave me, she would have done it by now.
Right.
So that kind of is just kind of like, okay.
Yeah, that's trust.
And I know we were talking about parents, and I think maybe this is just going to be a practice time, and we'll probably tone things up because kind of all over the place. But the role reversal has been hard, but I take pride. I always got to coach the kids, so I've coached everything from girls soccer, kindergarten soccer to high school boys football, and everything in between, every sport, lacrosse, hockey, you name it. So I got to spend all that time with the kids, which was awesome. A lot of parents don't get to do that, so a lot of men don't get to do that. So I've been super blessed to have this time with my kids, even though we'd be the first to say, I'm like, you guys got to get out of my house. like I'm training you to be sufficient and go get out of my house. And she's like, well, They'll save money. If they're like, well, yeah, I would have saved money if I'd have stayed home too. But
I
who
know,
wants?
but it's nice to have them around.
So we have a difference of opinion on
They're
these things,
fun.
right?
Yeah.
And again, I've always thought my job is to raise men and to make them self-sufficient, productive members of society that give back and are kind to people. And that's just the gig.
And I
And
think they
you
are.
can't do that living in mommy and daddy's basement. Is
Right,
all I'm
that's
saying.
true.
And we think back to when we were young. I left as fast as I could just because I wanted to get out of my house. It wasn't that I hated my family, anything like that. I was
I wanted the independence.
yeah,
I feel.
it was kind of like when your parents are like, you need to have the car back by this time. And you're like, why? And they're like, because it's my car. And you're like, well, I'll just figure out a way to get my own car. And then you get your own car. And then when the summer comes after your senior year and they're like, you need to be home by midnight, it's like, what?
Right, that's
Well,
how
if
we
you're
all
living
feel.
in my house, it's my rules. All right, well, then I'll get my own house. Like, that's kind of how I was. And
See, our kids just
but our
keep
kids are
breaking
like,
the rules.
okay, Dad, whatever. Yeah. And they just like sneak someone in their window. I'm like,
Okay.
and being honest. Being honest is the most important thing in parenting, I think,
Yeah.
and marriage
I think
as
marriage
that.
too. Yeah.
And it took me, when I was young, I was a great manipulator. I was a liar. I was full of it. Like I'm not proud of it. Um, and then I just started maturing. I was kind of a late bloomer, and you know, probably since I was like 25 years old ish is kind of when I turned, and I'm just like this lying business. Like she'd be pregnant, and I'm like, yeah, I'm gonna go get the car washed, and I'd like meet my friend at the casino and be like, oh, okay. Like it's no good. Like why didn't I just say, I'm gonna go to the casino?
It's no good.
Do you know what I mean? And so just
Probably
like
because I would have
stupid
said
little lies.
no.
Right. I know.
Then
That's
like
why.
we don't have the money for you to go to the casino.
Right.
So
Right.
you didn't want the answer that I was gonna give.
Right.
That's why you lie.
But
That's why kids lie.
I think something that even for both of us, one of our skill set is that we're genuine people.
Mm.
We kind of get what you see. There's not too much. I'm not really sure where he's coming from or where she's coming from, and I think people are drawn to people that are genuine. So I don't. For me, I just think it's the best as a coach. I think being honest with kids and they see, okay, this guy's done it.
Except for our coach right now, the stupid lacrosse coach. Who's ever listening to this, don't join the Polars lacrosse organization. The coach is horrible.
And that's another thing. Patty wants to like call and I'm like, no. Like
I do.
He's gonna go talk to him man to man. None of this text.
He didn't even call. He texted.
I know what happened. I'm just saying my suggestion as a father was saying you got to be a man about this. You got to go have a conversation. No phone call. No text message. You go and you talk to somebody's face, and it's going to be uncomfortable. But that's what happens. You're gonna have to deal with this. So just get used to it, and you don't need to cuss and rant and rage. Just go and be a man. And my kid's taller than me and he has facial hair. Like, all right, dude, you can go have a conversation with this guy. So
I never did though.
And Patty just kind of wants to every time something happens with the kid, she just wants to like, well, I need to call. It's like
I talked to the principal today for Lily.
So you can see we've had an arrested kid. We have another one that sneaks his girl out of sleepover. Like, we're amazing parents. So this truthfulness has been amazing. And they're like, yeah, Dad, we're being honest. We're sneaking in our own.
Okay, one thing that I wanted to talk about before we break, because we'll do this again. I thought this was great. What do you say? We took a huge risk moving from North Dakota to Minnesota, even though I know you say that we didn't because we were leaving for other reasons. But the main driver was opportunity for Checkable and utilizing all of these awesome programs that the state has. But what do you think that moving has done for us, other than we wouldn't be here at Checkable and be seeing the submission of an at-home strep test and telemedicine platform and mobile application and other diagnostics and supplements and all these people that are surrounding the business? Like, we live and breathe it. It wouldn't be possible if it wasn't for North Dakota. But other than that, the good and the bad, what has moving done for you and our family, do you think?
For us and our family, so I'm not going to tell the whole story. You know what happened, but we, Patty and I we're believers. And
Jesus.
I believe that God was on my heart for sure about doing something different than with the pandemic and all of this stuff happening. Um, and I just think it was who moves to Fargo, North Dakota? You know what I mean? It's kind of
People
like,
should.
I agree. I totally agree.
It's a great, more people should come here because then it would be more diverse.
My
We would have,
Pastor Anthony is from Australia. And he said he came to Minnesota and he's like, I will never go back to this place. Like,
right.
this is where
Yeah.
and then he was a pastor in Minnesota,
Yep.
like I just think God moves people in certain ways. And I think getting the phone call when we did,
Yeah.
Again, I won't get into all of it, but this is where we were supposed to be. God brought us here. And I think the greatest thing it's done.
That made it easier.
Yeah, that's why it wasn't that hard for me. I think sometimes people are like, my oldest son was just started
junior year.
Yep, 9th grade and 5th grade, and she was in Spanish immersion school and wasn't going to be here. So it was huge and drastic. But I think unintentional, what I thought was going to happen, I think the greatest thing is I think it brought our family closer together because we only had each other. None of us, we didn't really know one person in Fargo. Or Moorhead, we didn't know anyone. We literally were like, all right, and we
right.
were, I was a fireman.
And we were self-employed.
I worked in the schools, we were involved in our community. We loved the place we came from, and we were like embedded, and it was kind of like our place, and to just get up and move, everyone thought we were crazy. Parents included, family members, just like, who are these guys? What are they doing? But for me, it wasn't hard to move, and I think the greatest thing that I got out of it is I think it like unintentionally brought us closer together because at the beginning we only had each other, and not very often in life as you go with your family, moves, hours and hours away, it changes things, and it kind of forces you maybe unintentionally even to be like, all right, and you get to know each other better. And so for me, that's the best thing about my family, and the state's been amazing. I think there are so many benefits that you just would never think. You just drive like 4 miles that way, and you're in Minnesota, and things are completely different. So I I love being in a place where I feel like I don't know, kind of appreciated, and people understand that by growing jobs and bringing businesses, it brings your state tax revenue.
Right.
It's funny. I'm not highly educated, but you think of what some of these states are doing, and all these wealthy people are leaving,
right.
and all the tax base. Like I heard something like California's lost. I don't want to be an actor, but it was like
600 billion.
No, like $28 billion or $31 billion in taxes just from the people that have left, and it's like we need this economic engine to run, and I think of what my wife has done. She's come here. How many employees did you have when we came here?
We just had Erica.
Okay. So how many employees do you have now?
10.
Okay. So she's come to North Dakota because of these benefits, right? She's hired 10 people that now work for her and pay taxes in the state of North Dakota, with potential of people being like, you know what? So it just makes sense. It makes sense for the state to help startups, because I think that if you're in a place that's somewhat reasonable, they understand that business grows tax revenue, which helps everyone.
Yeah. So we bought a house.
Like common sense and stuff.
I mean, and all the things that. So like Minnesota, with their surplus, they totally put it towards programs that are supporting non-entrepreneurs. They now have a $10,000 Minnesota deed. Actually, when I was at a conference, the woman said to me that the former MN commissioner went now to the Star Tribune. He's CEO, and he said that North Dakota is kicking their butt. Minnesota. Well, when you have a $26 billion, they had a huge surplus.
Yeah,
it would have been almost $300 per citizen is what I figured it out to be if you would have just done a check. But instead, they put it into these programs that are supposed to help people, but there's no measurement. There's no definition of success. You know what? We're going to help 1,000 families go from being on food stamps to like 6-figure income.
Yeah.
They don't do that.
No. Well, another thing I really appreciate about North Dakota, so early on when we lived here, I was invited to some golf tournament. It's hard to golf here. It's really windy, and like I said, there's no trees. but but I'm at this golf tournament. We play, we finish up, and I'm in the lobby room, and all of a sudden, there's just somebody said, "Oh, nice to see you, Senator," and I was like, "What?" I turn around, and there's a senator, Senator Hoven, is just I'd never met him,
Yeah.
and he's just walking, just like any other member or
It's so
person that was
cool.
there,
They're
and
so
I was
approachable.
so impressed. They were so approachable. Went over, actually, he came to me and said hello, and I thought, this is amazing. Like, what other state would you, or I'm kind of a radio geek. So I listened to this radio show and they were having Senator Kramer on. So I actually called a radio station just because they're like, oh, you want to talk to the senator? I'm like, I'd like to talk to a senator. That'd be amazing. So I called in and I got to talk to him, and I actually
Senator
said,
Kramer, right?
Senator Kramer, and I said, I gave our story in a quick nutshell, and I said, it is so cool to live in a place where and they didn't screen my call. They didn't know
They
what I
just
was
answered.
They answered, and I said, yeah, I'd like to talk to Senator Kramer. And they're like, all right, hold on. And they just put me on hold, and then all of a sudden they're like, hey, Wes Fargo. And I'm like, oh my gosh. And I thought that was so cool that they didn't even ask. This senator had no, I could have been, who knows, I could have asked anything. And I thought that was so cool just to be in a place where a senator is brave enough to just be like, sure, I'll just take whatever calls. And they're like, well, there's no screening. We're not going to know. And I thought, I think that is so amazing. There are so few states that you can literally like be at like a Hornbachers and you're like, oh, there's the governor. It's like,
how can you drink this Coke all the time? It like makes my teeth hurt. How
that's
many
why
of
she's
it?
prettier than me.
How do you drink so many of these a day? Would you say 6?
No.
3?
Maybe.
3. Oh man, it's a lot.
That's how I stay ripped, by the way. Somebody once took Coke. I worked at a car dealership too. I slanged cars sometime in my life. Right after Will was born, whatever.
Yeah.
And I was walking around and I just sold the car and I was like, oh, this is great. And I'm drinking my Coke, and he takes my Coke and he said, do you know what this does? And I was like, that's amazing. I love it. As long as it's cold, as long as it's ice cold. And he was they used to fix up cars, what do they call it? Like finishing a car before they would give it away to the customers, and they clean everything. And he opens the hood of this used car, and there's kind of the green corrosive stuff on the battery, and he pours it and it just like eats it away. And I'm like, I think how clean I am inside. I'm just completely like
oh my gosh.
So everyone's like, don't do this, but
what if you went down to 1 Coke?
To
what
that
would
point,
you do?
I heard someone say, and I agree with, it seems like a strange thing to say, but they said we were so much healthier when we were a smoking society, right? In the 60s and the 70s and the 80s, there was almost no obesity, right? We were smoking. And then all of a sudden they went after tobacco because we learned that it was unhealthy, right? You might die from lung cancer, which is true. I'm not saying, oh, everyone go out and smoke a pack of heaters a day. Not what I'm saying. What I'm saying is they've taken away tobacco, right? And what happened?
Vapes.
Well, don't even get me started with that, but 3 times more nicotine
Actually,
in vapes than in cigarettes. 3 times.
This should be the next episode.
Yeah. So you really just jumped right in there. I was talking about smoking.
Nicotine.
No.
Big tobacco.
So they go after big tobacco. Get rid of it. What do we have? Fast food is just blown up, right? You look at heart disease, the number 1 killer, right? All of these things from what we're putting in our body, these sugars and blah, blah, blah.
You're right.
So, again, not saying I think smoking is gross. I don't want to be in a restaurant when somebody's smoking. I agree with that. But leave smokers alone because they pay a lot of taxes, first of all, right? And they have to, and they're
but they
shunned
don't
to a
want
corner.
kids smoking.
Yeah, kids don't smoke. I worked in a high school for 3 years, and I saw 1 cigarette in 3 years.
Yeah,
they don't smoke cigarettes; they vape.
Except in New York, everyone smokes in New York. I couldn't believe it.
New York is crazy.
That is true.
Don't even erase that. Don't even pretend you didn't even say that. New York. Somebody can like beat you over the head with a stick, and then you like defend yourself with the stick and hit him back. I know,
like that Marine.
Like over and over.
How did that Marine? Did he
move
get
out
charged?
of New York if you live in New York?
Come to North Dakota.
Come to North Dakota.
Come, and if you're a medical device company, really come. I will give you a tour. I will meet you. I will introduce you to the right people.
This place is booming.
It is.
It is.
And then other people will follow and they'll open more restaurants.
They're building
We're
a huge
getting
indoor water park.
yes, they are, and the complex.
Yeah, things are
And there's
huge
good
sport
youth
complex.
sports. There's great youth sports.
Lots of churches.
Yeah. I think downtown is fun too.
It is. It's a cool. I mean,
The
it's cold.
Jasper.
It's windy. Like, yeah.
But then you go on vacation. Like we went on so many different trips this summer or this winter.
That's the key. Is you have to plan at least one getaway in the middle of winter.
And then
like
summers are great here. Go to the lake.
Yeah.
Can't wait.
It's oddly beautiful too.
Yeah.
You wouldn't think so, but the sunsets, I'm really into sunset. I got this drone because I tore up my knee and we went on a vacation. She's like, get a drone, you can play with yourself. And I'm like, that's a good idea. So I did, and now I do all my family videos. And I'm like,
yeah, get the
drone. And so I love this thing now, but the sunsets are so we've been to Sanibel, right? We've been to Maui. We've been to some pretty cool places, and I'm telling you, on a good day, the sunsets here are as good as anywhere.
Yeah,
it is
beautiful,
amazing.
Especially if you get the golden hour, and then there's like
it's just like the ocean.
Clouds.
You're looking over like a sunflower field, and it's like a block from our house. It's amazing. So
I didn't even show you the one from yesterday.
It's different, but it's beautiful.
Isn't that cute? Look at how big Topher looks.
He's a giant.
Look at it. Okay, so that was our first episode. So you would say move to North Dakota. You would say moving is good for a family.
Depending on where you live, yeah. I mean, it's a you have to be brave. Mm-hmm. Like I said, what was pushing us here was easy. We didn't have to be as brave because we kind of felt it was a spiritual thing. So it really was, for me, it was kind of like, all right, let's go. I mean, it wasn't, and we're Minnesotans.
But that tug in your heart, I believe that's Jesus. That's Jesus pulling on your heart.
Yeah, there's no question. So that part was easy.
A lot of people don't know that feeling though. Like, I feel like if you were before.
That's another episode.
Yeah.
That's a great episode, actually. But we'll have to either edit this thing like a mother
we will.
or whatever. But it was nice to get to talk to some of you, and I guess if you listen to all of you.
Yeah, so signing off. This is a Persevere podcast. And here's one last thing for everyone. Here's a call to action. So you can follow me on Patty Post CEO on TikTok and Instagram, LinkedIn, Patty Post, follow Checkable. And then lastly, if you are on Amazon, if you will buy a collagen or a melatonin and use it and then give us a 5-star review, I would very much appreciate it, because we are trying to kick the algorithm up. And 5-star reviews, and if you write a comment, we would very much appreciate it. I love the collagen. It's great on the skin. I take it twice a day. And then the melatonin, everyone swears by it. It is the best. It even tastes delicious.
And signing off here, you can find me nowhere. And
you can find him
just the way I like it.
On my page. All right. Thank you for watching. And you can give this episode a 5-star review as well. And this is the Patty and Andy series. Talking about marriage.
Podcast.
Thank you.